Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you all the newborn hacks and top tips that I think every mum needs to know. Hi guys, my name is Holly and I have a 4.5-year-old, a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old. So hopefully some of these tips and tricks are going to help you guys out to get through and survive the newborn stage and just make it that little bit easier. And these are things that I have learned from all my 3 different newborn journeys. So the first hack I have for you guys is actually an upcycling and organisational hack, and it's something that I use to organise my baby's drawer because we are limited on space, and so it just helps organise things like socks and all the little items. And so basically I use these, and I've got actually 2 to show you here, and obviously as you can see they're different sizes. So these are actually what sheets come in. So I think this is probably when I've bought like Moses basket sheets, and then this is when I've bought sheets for our bed. And like this one for example is elasticated, and then this one is a drawstring, but they're just super handy. That it seems silly to waste this fabric that's a perfectly handy useful little bag to use, and I just use them to store all different things. So in this one I have socks, baby socks that all go in here because there obviously isn't too many, especially with a newborn. And then in here I have my dribble bibs, so they're just easy enough to pull out, and it just organises his top drawer. So while we are talking about socks, I have to say one hack that I'm sure so many mums have used and a lot of mums probably talk about, but when you are in doubt and you don't have any scratch mittens to hand, you can always use socks, so that is one thing to keep in mind. So my next hack is actually explaining a bit more about how these work. So I'm sure every single baby has had a poop explosion at least once in their life, although especially at the minute my baby seems to just be having poop explosions all the time, and the last thing you want to be doing when you're changing them is pulling their clothes up over their head, especially when they're like this and there's no like buttons or zips or anything. Yeah, you just don't want to be pulling that over their head. So if you can see, most baby clothes have these like envelope necks, and it's basically the material is crisscrossed over, and the reason for that is actually so that it's easier to kind of stretch, and it makes it easier to actually, when you're undressing your baby after a poop explosion, you actually pull it down over their shoulders. It's able to fit over their shoulders, and you can pull the clothes down and out and get the poop away without getting poop all over their head. So some people know that, some people don't, so hopefully that is a handy tip to help you guys deal with those inevitable poop explosions. So top tip that I actually have is a product that I want to tell you guys about. This is obviously not sponsored, nothing in this video is sponsored, although I will just link everything. If there are any products I talk about, I'll link all the information and stuff down below if you want to check anything out. But this is something I have been using for all my kids, and it is life-changing. And these are called sock-ons. Unfortunately, those are one of the things that I really need to put in one of those storage bags because they are so easy to lose. But they are super cute. You can get them in all different colours, but basically sock-ons go over socks, and somehow, miraculously, I don't know how they do it, but they keep socks on. Socks with babies, especially when they start kicking, they kind of are very good at kicking socks off their feet. It is a nightmare. There are socks, there's never seems to be a matching pair, so I highly recommend this product. I just absolutely think they're amazing, and especially when you do get to the point you're starting to put your baby in more like outfits and not sleep suits, although I do absolutely love sleep suits. It's just handy to make sure that when you're out and about that the socks actually stay on, and you can obviously get them to try and match the sort of colours that you are going for with whatever you've put on your baby. And then if we're moving on to talk about sleep suits, a top tip that I also have that is just, I'm pretty sure everyone will agree with this, but zip up sleep suits. When you are changing a baby's nappy during the night, when you are disorientated and you can barely see, your eyes aren't focused, the last thing you want to be doing is doing about 10 different poppers. I know nowadays they do tend to do it where there is one of the poppers that is a different colour, so you know kind of which to match and it's easier, but still doing those changes during the night especially in the early days, it's just hard work, and I just highly recommend, and I'm sure everyone will agree with me, the zipper sleep suits make life so much easier. They are more expensive. Sometimes supermarkets and places do sell them, or you can buy them on Amazon, and certain companies specialise in them, but they are just my absolute favourite to just make life so much easier overnight, which is what we definitely need with newborns. And while we're still talking about clothes, I also want to emphasise, don't overbuy, especially the really small sizes when you're pregnant. The last thing you want to do is be buying loads and loads of like newborn or tiny baby size. It's so hard to predict. Ultrasounds are only so accurate that even when they are adamant that your baby is going to be a certain size, it's not always guaranteed. The last thing you want to do is buy too much of one size. So I would recommend, especially if you do think you're going to be having a super small baby, maybe to buy some that are ready, but you just don't want to be buying loads and loads. It's better to have outfits that are slightly too big that do actually fit, as opposed to items that are too small. So I do just highly recommend wait until your baby's born to really splurge. The best way I found to do that especially was by not finding out the gender. I know that's so hard, and there'll be pretty much like nobody's going to agree with me, or very few people will want to do this. I'm sure nowadays it's so exciting to find out the gender, but it did help me in this last pregnancy by not finding out the gender, that I wasn't buying lots of clothes. But I guess I did also have hand-me-downs from a boy and a girl as well, so I did kind of already have a wardrobe ready. But yeah, I just recommend don't overbuy until your baby's here and you know exactly what size they are, and you don't need to waste money. And it's also so exciting when you get your baby and then you get to go shopping and treat them and buy them clothes then. So one of the biggest difficulties that a lot of new parents have, or people that have a new baby, even if it's your third, fourth, fifth baby, the most difficult part is when a baby has come out of your womb, it's been in this nice warm cocooned area where it's got this heartbeat noise, is to then go into the real world and be put into a cold Moses basket or even a next to me bed. I know that's nicer because then they can possibly see you and stuff and they are slightly closer. It's still a very difficult transition. I especially found that difficult with my last one. We've only just started getting him to sleep in his own bed and he is 3 months old. My top tip for you, and I guess this is a hack as well, and something that I actually learnt from my first pregnancy, is to put a hot water bottle in their bed before you put them in. So you put the hot water bottle in, obviously not a scorching hot bottle, just a warm bottle on their bed where they're going to be lying for about 10 minutes, so it just warms up that area and it's not so much of a shock when you put your baby down into this cold, isolating environment that is so unfamiliar to them. It just really helps ease them and help them feel more comfortable in, for example, a Moses basket or a next to me bed. And this is something that I actually learnt from my midwife when I was in my first pregnancy. But of course, please make sure you don't leave the hot water bottle in the bed with them. That wouldn't of course be safe, and we don't want them to be overheating, and make sure that it isn't too hot before you do then put them in the bed. So a lot of babies like to be bounced about and they like to be on you, but also they prefer to be moving, so that a lot of times you'll feel like you can't even sit down and it's so frustrating. So a compromise for this, especially if you have been using a birthing ball during pregnancy and you've been using that to bounce on, is kind of, you can use that as a way of being able to sit down but also bounce your baby at the same time. So they're getting that motion and they're getting to be close to you, but you actually get to sit down, so it's much easier on your back and it's just a lot more comfortable of a compromise that you're not having to walk around for hours on end. Obviously it's great for mum and dad to do, but it just gives them that rocking sensation without you actually having to walk around and really hurting your back. So a top tip as well is to make sure that if you do want to do a newborn photo shoot, to do it within the first 2 weeks. That is when baby is going to be sleepy the most. It's so much easier to reposition them and get them back to sleep quite quickly. It just makes the whole process so much easier. I actually didn't do that with mine, and I did, especially with my first son. He was at the age when he was actually smiling by the time I was doing his newborn photos, which I still adore them. I love these photos that I took, but at the same time I didn't quite get the sort of photos that you expect with a newborn photo shoot. So if you are thinking of doing a newborn photo shoot, it's just something to consider that it is a lot easier to reposition and do creative, whimsical photos with a up to 2-week-old baby that is obviously going to be sleeping a lot more. So one tip that I do have for on a night to help with your baby staying asleep, or at least getting them back to sleep, because they will obviously be waking up for feeds, is that I always make sure I do the nappy change first before feeding baby. Even though sometimes it does mean baby is screaming, and sometimes you might have this urge that you just want to feed them quickly, like straight away, because they're so upset because they've woke up, they're crying, and I do understand that. But at the same time, the last thing you want to do is feed your baby and then do a nappy change, and that nappy change can actually then wake them back up and you're back to square one. You're either going to have to feed them again, or one unlucky parent is going to have to walk around swaying and hoping that they will eventually fall back asleep. So the best thing to do, and it's something that we have got into the routine of always doing, whenever Oakley does wake up, I nudge Fabian and I say, right, he's waking up, can you sort his nappy out? I then get ready to breastfeed. While he's doing the nappy, I'll maybe be shushing and like stroking Oakley's head then, but then I'm all ready to breastfeed. It allows partners to be involved as well. It gives them the opportunity for it to be a team effort during the night. And it just means that once I've fed him, I can kind of pick him up, or Fabian picks him up. He burps, but he's asleep usually, and then it's so easy to lay him back in his bed and he just stays asleep. And we usually put his You and the Sheep on, and it like makes his white noise and heartbeat sound, but it just keeps him asleep. So my top tip, like if you take anything from this video, please just try this and see if it works. But I highly recommend doing the nappy change first, even if they're crying a little bit more. It just makes it so much easier to then get them back to sleep during the night and make life a little bit easier. I'm sure most of you are no stranger to the benefits of breast milk, and one thing I would highly recommend is if you are breastfeeding, or even if you have maybe chose to go for formula but you've breastfed for so long, or you've expressed, whatever the case may be, I highly recommend freezing some of that milk. I actually haven't done this yet and I really need to get sorted to do this, but it literally, like everyone says, it just seems to fix everything. It can fix adult acne, baby acne, it can help with cradle cap. We actually used it in Oakley's first few weeks. He had very sticky eyes, very gunky, gross, sticky eyes, and it's amazing. Dropping a few drops of my breast milk into his eye, obviously that was fresh straight from the breast, but it's amazing for if children develop allergies or eczema later on in life, they can then have breast milk baths. And so it maybe it's been frozen for such a long time, it wouldn't be safe to necessarily consume, but the potential it has for skin problems is amazing. There's so much research on it, so I'll try and link information down below, but I just highly recommend, if possible, to try expressing if you can, and just storing some of your breast milk for a rainy day when you may need it in the future. So another tip that I have for you guys is when your baby starts fussing, sometimes they don't fully wake up, so as much as you might want to rush to them because they're starting to fuss and fidget and like wriggle about, it doesn't necessarily mean that they actually need you and that they are waking up and are going to need something. Like they might not need feeding. Sometimes if you just give them a second, like literally a couple of seconds, and just see if they're actually going to fully wake up, or if they are just kind of fidgeting during their like in between sleep cycles and dreams and stuff, that you might not actually need to pick them up and get them out. It's just sometimes you can rush and end up waking the baby, and it just makes everything 10 times worse. I'm not at all advocating for the cry it out method, I'm not advocating that at all. I definitely don't agree with the cry it out method, but sometimes just pausing for literally a split second to just watch your baby and see what they're doing, you can try and work out whether they are actually properly waking up, or if they're just having a little bit of a fidget, a little bit of a wriggle, and then they're actually going to just fall back asleep. but like I say, I'm not advocating the cry it out method at all. It's just pausing for a few seconds to just work out what they're doing, and then you can decide whether you think they are properly waking up and they need your attention and they maybe need feeding or changing, or they're uncomfortable, or they might just be having a dream, having a wriggle, changing sleep cycles, something along them lines, or something they might have heard a noise that made them stir a little bit, but they're not actually waking up, they're just kind of been disturbed, and then they're going to fall back asleep straight away. And in that case then it's fine, they can be left and they can enjoy their snooze. But the only other thing that I really want to share with you guys is I want to highly recommend that you research the Dr. Hamilton hold. I don't know if it's, I think we have tried this with our babies, but I have heard a lot about it. I have seen it being done. It's amazing how it seems to work. I will link a video down below for you guys to see it. It's this doctor and he has this way of holding babies that just instantly calms them, which is, especially when you have a crying baby, it's something like a lifesaver to know how to calm them, how to hold them, and this just seems to be a really effective technique that seems to work on all babies. So do try it out, have a look at the link down below, and hopefully that might just give you guys another tool in your box of parenting knowledge. And I hope this video has been useful for you. I hope you have enjoyed. What was your favourite hack? Was there anything that I missed that you think every parent needs to know to survive the newborn stage? If so, then make sure you comment it down below so other people can learn from that as well. And thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more handy motherhood videos, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.